and collecting. Try Showtime integrated Tezos wallets along with the Ethereum wallets. So now you can show off everything you got in Hen, everything you picked up on OpenSea or Rarible or anything like that. It's pretty awesome. So they really stepped up their game. I'm looking forward to on Cyber. I think on Cyber might have done the same thing. I'm not sure if you can mix either one of them in one on Cyber Show, though. I'm going to look into that. And then if you want to purchase any of the scenes today, they're on sale. Actually, if you'll bear with me just 1 second, I need to put well, I'll do it at the end of the show. I'm not going to hold up the show for this. I have to put up Dave's scenes on sale on Hen right now. They are not currently on sale, but I will do that at the end of the show. So, without further ado, I'm going to unmute Dave here. Oh, Dave, you should be good to go if you unmute yourself.
Cool.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Mondays have transformed into the day I look forward to every week, so that's pretty awesome.
That's good to hear. Usually that's not the case for
it's quite the opposite.
Most folks.
Yeah. So let's. I will go ahead and screen share. We're going to just hop in. I'm starting this off in the Koenig Gallery. It's been empty ever since their initial auction. And I've got a couple things to say about that before we begin with Dave. Currently, there is a big tiff within the Decentraland DAO community about the voting rights of everybody involved. And I have put BBStudios land on a proposal twice now, the second time, so that we can get it on the actual map as a point of interest on the big Decentraland map. For Token Smart's show, Artist Hour. And it got shot down by like one big whale with a weighted vote last time. And this time they're letting it go through, but there is another proposal directly behind mine that will basically cut it off for anybody who doesn't get enough, over 500,000 votes. So basically anybody who's not a whale will not be able to participate in the DAO voting system. And that's a real shame. And basically, they're letting mine go through. It looks like right now is kind of a low-key, don't raise any more fuss and we'll let you in the back door kind of bribe. And so I'm currently taking it because they're going to fuck it. They're going to screw everybody over anyways. And if I can get in the back door before they do it, I'm going to do it. So that's what's happening right now. And you can check it out if you go to the DAO voting section. I'm not going to drop links specifically, but it's really messed up. It's quite the opposite of Decentraland. I told them they need to just drop the DE off the name. So that's where we're at. But without further ado, I am going to run over to our gallery, which actually has lots of new content, like Dave's seen. And Dave, why don't you introduce yourself now and tell us a little bit about the project first before we go through and look at each particular piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the crypto space from about 2017. That's when I guess I bit the bug in the last bull market.
So wait, did you get in like early enough to get burned, or like early enough to get a little money before the whole?
I don't think I was smart enough to have came out of that alive when it comes to my portfolio.
Yeah,
I think I learned my lessons. I think during the winter.
I did the same thing. I did that, and I got burned too. And yeah, like you said, pretty expensive lesson, but yeah.
It's important that we're still here. I think above anything else. I think that's
very true.
Right. So, yeah. So 2017, I bit the bug then, and decided that I wanted to pursue crypto as a career, as something that I wanted to spend a lot of my time in. And I was very fortunate to have joined then a company or a project, 0x Protocol. And so my first few years in crypto was mostly involved with DeFi, building different technologies to help make DeFi what it is today. And so that has been a big part of my kind of experience, but I've always really enjoyed, just the world of NFTs. I really liked CryptoKitties when they were kind of like clogging the whole blockchain. And then when Super Rare just came out, I was very excited about those kind of things. And so about half a year ago, I decided that I really wanted to throw my own hat in the ring and wanted to create something NFT related. So I created this project called Proof of Beauty, more aptly called BBStudios, and decided to find a way to create interesting, thoughtful, hopefully generative art that is tied to a moment of history. So I'm gonna kind of I guess now explain Proof of Beauty, and then
I'll go ahead and drop the link. I'll drop Proof of Beauty's Twitter link now for everybody to follow you on Twitter. And here is for everybody who wants to visit the website directly. I can, if you'd like, I can screen share the. I believe I can back out and screen. I might just kind of do. Hold on. If everybody just wants to jump in there and take a look at the website, and you want to describe
I'm going to drop a link as well there. Hopefully that provides some other color as well. But yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna give a quick blurb on what is Proof of Beauty.
Sure.
Just to make it a little easier on folks. People have used so many different metaphors, and I use the one that I like a lot. I think if you could imagine those kind of penny, what do you call it, crushing, smushing machines that you see at carnivals, where
yes,
you put 2 quarters in, and then you put a penny, and then it takes this token of utility, right, a penny, and creates or imprints upon it and transforms it into a piece of art. And in many ways, that's what Proof of Beauty's hash, which is what we call our project hash, is all about, which is, let's take a transaction hash or really a transaction, right? And then within a transaction, there's already so much information already packed in, right? There's who sent it, who received it, how much gas was consumed, what contracts were interacting, all this rich information. And we actually take all that information and effectively paint a piece of generative art for you. And on each artwork on the page, and you can actually scroll down and note all of the little details that we're using to correlate a visual piece to this specific transaction. And so hopefully we in many ways, we want to build an interesting cultural memento for Ethereum history. And since the project launch, we have seen a ton of folks kind of act like archaeologists. They're going out and digging through all of our very rich Ethereum history to hunt for specific history that they have deemed valuable. And if they have found one valuable, you can mint it. So it's some people are very interested in just greater crypto history. Some people love NFT history. So we have seen a lot of Beeple history, snatched. So yeah, so it's that's what Proof of Beauty's hash is.
I have to admit, I was a little confused by your UI on your website. So I was under the impression you could only mint transactions from your own wallet, but you're saying you can mint any transaction that has not been minted.
Yeah. So that's on us, honest to God. It's been something that I think we could do better on communicating. But you can mint any transaction on Ethereum blockchain, assuming that it has not been minted beforehand. But for a personal transaction that has been created by yourself, we do offer a discount. And for transactions that are historic in nature, we have a different pricing. And so we were working around how do we create discount models to kind of incentivize other areas of, what is history, such that we can really, diversify our community.
And you know what? I would honestly say that that is my only critique about this project so far. This project's really, really cool, and I just didn't get it at first because of the UI. But as soon as I got what was going on, what you were doing with it, I was like, "This is pretty cool." Because it's generative, but it's purpose-driven generative. It's not just we're gonna just throw out a batch of 10,000 and you guys pick through it. It's the user does the curation ahead of time and is only producing what they place value on, And it's interesting. Have you guys found that people have looked at certain events and they didn't look good visually and then they just decide not to? Is there any way for you to see that kind of traffic? Because I'd be interested to see if, not like people per se, but like somebody's like just going like for a specific event and then they just didn't like how it looked generatively and they decided not to mint it.
We don't have that specific feed. That's actually very interesting, and it's something that definitely came up a few times during the development and from community feedback. I think it's very interesting in the context that it's deeply reflects who's a collector. I know some folk who are just very driven by the history context and are very much so just like, if it's history, we mint it. And for some other folks, it's a matter of balancing the both. So I think I've heard quite a wide gamut of how people choose, and I think in many ways that's kind of the fun of the project. So yeah, I guess we don't have that, but I definitely have heard cases on both sides of the aisle.
I just think this is gonna. I mean, you may have created the entire subgenre yourself. I mean, this could be huge. I think because it is definitely extremely unique, interpretive, almost like a derivative, like a visual derivative. But yeah, I love that you went with that analogy. Whose idea was to use the like the train track or the that machine that scrunches the penny, because that is a perfect analogy.
I honestly think it was actually on one of the work in progress after hours that somebody was saying that in the Discord chat, and I was like, okay, that is the metaphor. I spent half a year trying to figure out how to explain it, but that was the one.
If you can get your website to explain that analogy in a coherent manner, I think you got something here, because honestly, that was the only thing that I can critique at all about this project is just the website was just a little bit confusing, and I didn't really know what was going on at first. But yeah, all right, cool. Let's hop in and just look at some of these pieces and tell. Yeah, I assume you have the background on some of these, these particular ones.
Most of these,
or do you just
some
it's
cool? Gonna have to come out of my own memory.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Oh, is this? Oh, hey, GraphCal's up here in the metaverse. I saw another dot, and I was looking around, and I wasn't thinking 3-dimensional. He was right above me the whole time. That's hilarious. All right, I'm going to just run up the neighbor stairs. This is Sonray Ink Terrorist, our neighbor. This guy also updates his content all the time. That's a great thing. So we try to support each other. All right, what's this one about that? GraphCal is standing right in front of this green with a green sphere, the lime.
I think so. Yeah. So, I think some people would notice that there's like two almost visual formats, right? There's these ones where there's a lot more
spherical.
There's like these larger spherical form, and then these like harsher lines, and then lower ones are of quarter cuts. So we actually have like this seasonality concept where if you minted it in an earlier batch, that was of a different visual experience, and this one is of of what we call season 1.
That's very smart. From a collector's standpoint, that's very smart.
Yeah, so we hopefully reward earlier seasons just out of the visual authenticity of being a earlier generation, but it's also I love generative art and wanted to find an excuse to make more of it.
Wider variety, but that has meaning. That's a great integration of both of those goals.
Yeah, so this first row you're seeing, or the row you're looking at, is all season 1. We somehow started our number at 0. Season 1 saga, and this algorithm was very much so designed to be what do you call it? Compositionally very, very diverse. That was one of the big goals. Was how can we use very simple rules and create something that would create a lot of different output that can evoke different forms of emotions. And why that was a big criteria for us was we really wanted season 1 to be about personal history and just other aspects of our history, and we wanted these pieces to be more evocative. At least that was the goal. And so I was kind of inspired with, how do we have these complex, smaller forms work together to create bigger forms, and then how do we use negative space, such things like that.
Yeah, you did really well on that piece right there.
Yeah. That is actually one of my own transactions. I believe on Matcha, which is a DEX, using the 0x protocol. And why I say that is you can tell from the colors; those are 0x brand colors, and the pink one is Uniswap because it's Uniswap branded colors. And I believe that's also one of my own transactions. This green one, I don't actually quite remember which one it is because I don't believe that is a branded color. So for some of the more obvious addresses, we would use their brands, but for some of the less obvious ones, we have pre-generated palettes. But I think this is one of those that maybe I personally own that I just really liked visually, was unique. The one on your left most is a compound finance deposit, and I believe that's actually my first deposit ever in compound finance. But yeah, so I believe this row is actually just all my own history.
Hopefully it was deposit when it was called lend.
Yeah. That gives some time.
now I gotta ask a question. Did you specify that these were all season 1 to Bake.eth when you gave him the files? Because he sets up these scenes and he curates in the sense that he's putting these these pieces where he thinks they should go coherently.
I don't think so.
So that's a testament to the success of your intentions, because he saw these pieces and decided that they go together. Right? he put them up here, and he could have willy-nilly put these, and I think he probably saw your intentions and separated them as such.
Well, hopefully that's a matter of of both parties' attention.
Well, he's more of a formally trained artist, so he has much better curation skills than I do. I just when I put them up, it's more of a haphazard thing. But when he puts them up, he's placing them with intention usually.
Got it.
So that's just, I find that interesting that he picked out all the ones. All right, let's down here. Background.
These are some of the more historic transactions. So the one with the blue, that's a season 0 Genesis algorithm. It's distinctive in the sense that it's with those quarter circles. But this is the first transaction on the Ethereum blockchain, period. First transfer. And as has been documented in history, and this specific generative art NFT has a lot of history in the Proof of Data community. This was probably the largest sale when it was minted by somebody and soon bought on OpenSea for about 50 ETH. And we decided to also do a mural for this. So if you live out in Australia, we actually commissioned a very talented artist to go out and do a fairly large mural on the side of a wall near a beach. We really wanted to memorialize these pieces and find interesting ways to bring them out into the meat space, since we do so much of our work in the metaverse.
Well, now I'm glad I didn't put the scenes today on sale before the show, because we had never discussed price, and we'll have to discuss that after the show, because this is these are dioramas of the original works, so the price is reflective of that usually, but even so, I may have underpriced these if I had been left to my own devices. So I'm glad I didn't do that, because given the background, this is a momentous piece of art.
Yeah, this one, and you could, and I guess this is just out of me having, me designing this algorithm, but you can tell from this to the one on your left, which has the red circles, and the circles are smaller. The larger circles, or circle forms, tell me that this transaction was simpler, less complex, which makes sense since it was the very first transaction. So there's a lot of little things that I guess, just out of the spirits of, I've looked at nearly tens of thousands of these outputs, and I can generally tell what's actually happening or going on within these algorithms
now,
and how they're reflecting history.
Have you run these through like Deep Blue at all?
Deep Blue, what do you mean by that?
That AI, the IBM, that AI program that does. You can give it large batches of images, and it goes through and runs through AI image recognition program, and you can give it parameters. I just wonder if you could train it to find specific types of transactions based on the visuals.
I think that's actually very interesting. I definitely have not personally done that. I do remember a few months ago somebody who I believe worked or is very close with the Google's BigQuery team, and he's a kind of a data geek, he or she. And then they were asking me, he's like, hey, can I reverse engineer from the very piece itself the transactions? And then my conclusion, at least at the time, was you can't maybe do a full reverse, or that would be very challenging, but you can definitely pick out trends. I think there's a lot of it's rather easy to actually pick out trends, and I know folks who have built I guess third-party websites that are either somebody went out and hunted for very cool very cool transactions, and are kind of putting almost like a class, like a Craigslist classified for transactions they have found. I know some folks have created websites to just do all the data mining, data work for you, to go through all the transactions and find which ones you think will create you the right visuals that you want. I can't think of those websites on top of my head right now, but there's specific domains. But there has been some community-led efforts into the act of hunting. How do we, go through what is, a trillion whatever transactions and find the right ones that you want to specifically turn into NFTs and history.
I think that you have unwittingly built possibly a visual protocol that people can use, that people will analyze in the future. I think it's going to go beyond just your art specifically. I think it's really impressive, honestly.
Thank you.
I had kind of, it was formulating in my head until you gave us all these extra details, and now that you've done that, I think there's definitely some people that I want to introduce you to after the show that might have specifically. I don't know if you've ever heard of Lunar Crush.
No.
Social network. They kind of like look at the social network and look at tweets and stuff, analyze that stuff on a macro level to try to see trends. I think they would be specifically interested in this type of stuff as well. I mean, it's just
cool.
Really impressive that you can tell, like you said, the simplicity of a transaction based on the size of the generation.
Yeah, and I believe the red one there is now I can't.
I really like
don't
this
remember.
one visually. I mean,
I
these
think
two I
that's the
really like
first
visually.
smart contract.
Really?
I think this is the first smart contract. I'm trying to think on my top of my head. I have to like look this one up, but I do believe it's either the first smart contract or the first 32 ETH deposit into the ETH2 chain. So it's important history. It's one of the two. I don't quite remember on my head.
Did you say if any of these transactions represent the fork?
The hard fork. I don't actually think. Oh God, I completely forgot to bring one of those. But
I assume somebody's minted it already.
it's not. Well, I actually learned this interestingly. It's actually technically not just one.
Oh, so it'd be two technically.
Transaction. There's quite a bit of transactions involved with that whole interaction, and I do know somebody who like spent the whole night digging through it all and snatched it all in one go. So
nice.
I know somebody who owns all but one. I know somebody who took the one, and so yeah, there was this whole story that I was kind of clued into among a few community folks that like it's like I went on this massive research journey to find it all, and then I realized that one was taken away, and he's I don't know if he's obtained it from that collector or whatever, but it was an interesting story.
That almost validates the collection to me.
Yeah,
it's only like if somebody has all the one thing, and it's like, okay, well, then it's not, no one else has it. But as long as one piece is missing from the collection, it's a collection. I feel like.
Yeah. And the red one there, that's one I personally own. I personally really like, but it's also historic.
This one?
The red-orange one.
Yeah.
I just love the colors of that one. The red on the blue. But if I remember correctly, I believe that's the contract. That's the transaction that created the USDC ETH pool on Uniswap.
Nice.
And so I think this, I kind of explained earlier, I was much more engaged in DeFi, but thought it was a nice, cross of the roads or combination of my past and the present to capture a moment of DeFi history. So
that's, I recently started delving into it a little bit. I finally found an interface that doesn't confuse the hell out of me. So I think that's a big barrier for anyone who's already savvy enough to work within, the system. But once you figure it out, I mean, I see I just see, like, I always thought of all those insane gains. I'm like, where's all that coming from? And then now to me, like, now I'm thinking to myself, like, this is all what the banks usually get for themselves. That we don't get access to that, and now we're getting rewarded for providing those services, whereas the banks were always getting rewarded for providing the services prior to that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I think it's cool. I think it's very cool. This project is just extremely impressive. I have to admit, I did not get it at very well when I first went to the website, but now that I understand what's behind this project, I mean, I think you've got something going on, and I think, honestly, to me, this has more long-term staying power if crypto art is long enough to generate a footnote in all the history of art in general, this will be included, I think.
Thank you. I mean, those I think that is among our goals, ambitions for this project. It's been something like I guess this is a little bit tangential, but so Proof of Beauty Studios, which is kind of like the entity that creates this. I guess that's how I'm paying myself and keeping myself, under a roof under my head. I think that we conceptually, which we as in there's two of us, I think we're really interested in and this is something I brought up in a different chat on a different kind of podcast. It's like what kind of NFT projects do we like to see created? And obviously, we're in a bull market, or whatever phase of a bull market we are in right now. There's a lot of I guess not repetitive but derivative projects.
Yes, very much so.
And so yeah, so we were thinking, is like, how do we spiritually define ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And I like to think of ourselves a lot like artist Banksy. Not to say that I think we're as skilled or of the scale of Banksy's work, but Banksy does his work publicly. Most of them are public arts that are on walls, and I think it's very interesting how, if I were to just take a picture or photo or somehow scan his artwork and put it on a piece of paper, does it eliminate the quality of the art? Not necessarily, but the fact that Banksy puts it on this specific wall, usually there's actually a deeper commentary. When he placed a piece of art on the Israeli border wall, right? I think because he put it on that wall, this artwork was almost was complete, right? Standalone, and yeah, it's a visual piece of work, but I think there's a deeper metaphorical meaning when you are very deliberate with the medium you choose to use. And I think that's where BBStudios were really interested in creating NFT projects like that, where we're not just tokenizing and finding or tapping into the potential of NFTs as this distribution medium, as a way of ownership. Well, we want to really use NFTs as with the deeper intention that, like, well, if we were to do this without NFTs, the idea is incomplete, right? Like, the idea needs to be on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our bigger striving, I guess, goals. And we don't say this as if we're higher than any other project. We're saying this as an intellectual challenge on our parts, that we really are interested in things like, how do we expand upon our relationship with the Ethereum blockchain, right? For some folks, this has been world-changing, life-changing. For some folks, it has a lot more emotions imbued to it. But
now, do you have plans on doing this for other chains?
Yeah. I've chatted with quite a few other teams on that, teams behind other chains. That's something that has always been on my mind. Obviously, if it's a EVM or very similar chain to Ethereum, it's easier on us to do. Yeah. There's a lot of work involved with this, but yeah, I am very much so interested in Matic. I think Matic is starting to build its history and community. But I have chatted with guys from the Dapper team to Optimism to other folks, and I guess one of our key parameters of assessment has always been, well, if we want to create something that captures history, there has to be history worth capturing on that specific chain. And I think there's also an interest in every blockchain. I think this will continue to grow, that in the case that every blockchain has its own sub communities that have its own nuances, and it's, I think, creatively very interesting how we can, if we were to port Proof of Beauty's hash this project out to other chains, how can we better accommodate it to that specific chain and that specific community and what they value and don't value.
It's ironic. I actually initially proposed, and it was almost, I would say it's fairly accurate to describe. I was kind of dragged into this space by artists that I'd been dealing with. I'd actually been at the time getting .eth domains for artists, because I was trying to drive adoption of .eth domains because I have a large portfolio of .eth domains. So initially, I was dealing with popular artists in the crypto Twitter sphere, and started talking with them and started actually trading domains for pieces of art, and that's how I got sucked in. But initially, when I proposed the project of Harmony and Discord, it was in almost in opposition to some of the other generative art projects, because I felt that it would be easy for a programmer to waltz in and just toss out a random algorithm that generated visuals, right? That to me seemed easy. But what you've done is you've given that meaning. You've given that process meaning, and on a basic level, I think. And there are some other projects that have done that on a more gamified level, but I think you've approached it from a very basic level that's going to allow this to stand on its own as purely generative art. And I really applaud everything about this project, minus a little bit the website itself, which is
that will. I'll come back to you in a week or two with a.
That's the easy thing to fix. Yeah, that's the easy thing to fix. You got all the important stuff right.
Yeah. To that point, I've been in this space for a bit. Nothing against some of these projects, but I think when it comes to just like NFT, like what do you call it, value philosophy, I was very interested in how in generative art specifically because it's a very challenging problem when it comes to creating value. And for most folks, the what do you call it, the calculus, if you will, is largely derived from your supply cap and the artist that created it. And those two and the rarity systems you have gamed into the artwork, usually those three, kind of like how they work together will eventually produce, some amount of value within the system. And I, not to say that this is not something that, is bad. It works in some context. Obviously, in a bull market, it is almost a little bit squeezed to the point of drop, like it's overused.
Yeah, definitely.
For Proof of Beauty, for this project, we were really interested. I think in the very beginning, it was like, how do we create a generative art project where supply cap doesn't deeply matter anymore, right? How do we create a project where the artist doesn't matter as nearly as much? Obviously, should matter, but it should be, how do we empower the curator more deeply, right?
Yeah.
Have them almost be part of that artistic process. And so I've consistently kind of told the community, is like, yeah, Proof of Beauty is a perpetually unfinished project, and that's how it's supposed to be, right? Every time somebody curates and mints a piece of artwork, you did the last mile of turning this expansive, history and found which one is visually appealing, historic enough, or sentimental in different ways, and turn it into a piece of an NFT that hopefully holds the value that it should hold. And as a studio, we're working very hard to continue to grow the community. But yeah, like.
Well, no, I think you keyed on something really important there, because you're generating multiple different classes of collectors. Some collectors are going to pick pieces specifically on the transaction, right? And you guys noticed that. You guys obviously were going for that, but then you built in this other thing where there's just going to be treasure hunters out there. Look at the most random transactions ever, trying to find something visually, aesthetically stunning. And those people are attacking this from a whole different perspective. And I liken it to the situation with Hick and Nunk. And that's why I asked if you plan on doing it for other chains. Like, you've got people that are specifically looking after trying to find specific artists on the chain. Then, because of the geniusness of their indexing system, you've got people that are collecting specifically, and I have to say I'm actually part of this. I've collected pieces specifically because of the object number. And I think if you can have multiple different groups of people collecting from different angles like that, you're going to create a much more sustainable secondary market in the future. It's just a much more sustainable collecting ecosystem if you have people collecting for many different reasons. And I think you guys nailed it with that.
Yeah, I could definitely speak about the number hunting. I know the 1,000th one was very sought after. I minted the very first one, but I gifted it to one of my close friends that has helped me along the way. And then he was telling me a month later, saying, "Hey, yo, I'm getting a lot of offers, like multi-ETH offers for the very first one." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird. I didn't see it coming." But yeah, like there was definitely some amount of activity
Mhm.
around the numerality of these specific transactions or these specific hashes. And yeah, so I think you really leaned into a really interesting part about the hash project. This idea of archiving history. We're very focused on how do we turn this NFT project into the library, library of Alexandria or whatever of
Mm.
ETH. How do we create a vibrant community that doesn't just look at a visual piece itself, but also can tell its stories? Right? How do we turn this into a campfire where people could come together and tell the stories of ETH? Right. So we have been working
Interesting.
really hard. We've been working really hard actually.
Have you thought of maybe looking to the Dewey Decimal System for inspiration on that?
What do you mean by that? I know that thing.
It's just
Um,
the different ways it categorizes all the books,
mm,
and then the way it indexes is according to that. I don't know. Maybe it's just a hunch.
yes. Yeah. This is something that we've been actually talking about in classification systems. Thank you for bringing this up. I was thinking about I had a conversation earlier where I was thinking about this, but I didn't remember what it was called. I think literally this is what it's called. So thank you. Yeah, we actually are. We were working with a few community folks to effectively. I should take a step back before I explain this to get some context. Once you own an NFT, one of our hash NFTs, you can actually add your own title and description to it, and you'll see it on OpenSea. You'll see it on Rarible. You'll see it on any of those because it follows the metadata standard. So people are adding the story behind these transactions, right?
Yeah,
but
I viewed a couple of those right before the show started on OpenSea. That's cool. That's where it comes from. So it's a collaborative contract then?
It's collaborative in context that collectors put it up themselves and only collectors can. But we, obviously some of these cannot be truthful, right? Or they could be malicious in intent to trick somebody, right? So we're actually working on creating or evangelizing a few folks within our community to effectively come together to create a panel of historians. That's what we're calling a historians panel. There's and those guys are going to be going out and validating and verifying some of these, or saying that or disputing these descriptions. And we're hoping that this actually kind of creates this new role within our community of folks who are interested in the archiving and the quality of archiving our history. And I think we can really, and these guys have been asking us, hey, can we do labels, right? Can we add labels to these transactions? Like this one is a DeFi transaction, this one is a Beeple related one, a NFT history related one, right? And this would start to create this, start to build upon this library and this classification system, and eventually really actually turn this from just an NFT project to a project of archiving history, right? Yes. And I think that's a very interesting long-term play.
That's like the most compelling long-term play I've heard of in the NFT space in general, honestly. To be have you talked by any chance? Have you done a podcast yet with Second Realm, Eric from Cyber Realm?
I believe not. That name does not sound very familiar to me.
I would be very interested in hooking up with him because he's specifically focused. His podcasts are specifically focused on an archival aspect of the NFT community. So he could point out good people to talk to get that historical background that you would need to give that panel context.
Cool. Yeah. I definitely would love to chat with him.
Yeah, he would probably want you on to do a podcast too. Once you tell him about the project, he'll definitely want you on to do a podcast. So that's definitely something you should. I'll put you in touch with him after the show for sure, along with a couple other people.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to even expand upon this whole archivist thing, we're very interested as a studio about what you can build on top of this on these NFTs, and I think you earlier alluded to how these can be primitives almost. And so we do believe, well, we internally call these each a atomic unit of history, right? It's indivisible. You can't divide a transaction in half. So what I think is very interesting is how do we create grander narratives when we take 3 or 4 of NFTs, like let's just say the DAO hack. The DAO hack is about 20 transactions. What if I took all 20 transactions, almost like Voltron them together into a new NFT? What kind of extra value or storytelling, I think more importantly, storytelling narratives can we build on top of these single units of history? And that's been something that we're really interested in exploring. We are creating like designs for specific histories. We're working with artists on this level as well. And we hope to actually create a economy of sorts for other artists to come in and tell their stories through these as primitives, obviously to whatever level of success we'll gauge that in the future. But we're really, I think, interested in not just collecting history, but also how do we tell that story, right? And I think
now I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I was just thinking, as you're saying, telling that story, what happens when the story itself changes? As in, have you done any transactions with charged particles or async?
With async art?
Yeah,
you mean?
Since there's capable of changing visually.
Well,
is that it's still a static contract? So does that?
So since these are tokenizing the transaction is like the act of change is static, right? As in it's inscribed on the blockchain, right? That doesn't change. We can capture that history, right? So we're capturing the change, that like the state, like the act of change, but like the actual result, right? As async art is dynamic art. That is technically out of the bounds of us because we are about transaction history, right? But I say this as if I'm limiting the project. We have potentially other ambitions when it comes to other ways of tokenizing "quote unquote" history. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this.
So you're saying so this is mostly just focused on transactional history. That's not an active dynamic smart contract.
Yeah, we don't tokenize a smart contract, right? We don't tokenize a version of that smart contract.
It's just the hash itself. Okay.
Yeah. We have actually a lot of internal.
I guess I was thrown off when you said you were talking about the. I guess I was just thrown off when you were talking about the simplicity of the contract here versus how.
That's on me actually. What I mean by that is, the actual transaction itself is very gas efficient. Like there's not a lot of gas involved, meaning that it probably was just a simple transfer of ETH.
I gotcha.
Right, and then the other one, I think why I said contract was I was thinking this was the first contract deployment.
And it would have cost a lot of gas, and therefore.
Yeah, and that would have cost a lot of gas, and that's
gotcha.
quite specifically right.
No,
yeah, that's on me. I had to clarify that.
That's good.
But yeah, we have. Go ahead.
So that would mean technically you would be able to. I'm thinking you would be able to show at least charged particles for sure, since that's a secondary thing that they're. I don't know. I bring them up because they said they were intending to be a protocol level layer that any marketplace could use as an ancillary option. So I was just thinking, longer term out, if you guys got with them, we're displaying generative yet dynamic, as it would change, but it was still generative at the same time. But it would change, as an async, they have pieces that change depending on the time of day.
Right. Yeah. That's been something creatively I'm personally very, very interested in, and how do we create these reactive pieces to different forms of information, usually smart contract information. But yes, that is something that we're really interested in exploring. And we have a ton of random, like half-finished ideas about how can we, capture. One of them was like, how do we capture the stability of like DAI against the US dollar, right? And
Nice.
like,
Nice.
that'd be really cool if you have like this almost like a Roman statue that like looks like it looks more degraded when
Depending
if
on
DAI is away from the dollar, and then it looks
that's
it looks
cool.
more new or mint condition, right?
That would be very cool.
There's there's a lot of these kind of play, I guess, under the umbrella of capturing history, and tapping into this very rich trove of information of data of community within the Ethereum space, or really on any other very vibrant chain. And how do we turn that into culture, token, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Well, I think you're well on your way. Because personally, I've always had a personal problem with appreciating what I would characterize purely abstract art. And I always thought to myself growing up, like anybody can throw, paint at a canvas willy-nilly, and for me, actually, it started to change. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
At the end, he gifts her what appears to be just the dog's playing poker, but then she peels it away and reveals a original Jackson Pollock.
Yep.
And like, there's no one else. It implied that she was never going to show anybody else that she had original Jackson Pollock. That was just for her,
right?
And to know that he did that specific piece gave that, I don't know, that's when I finally derived meaning out of some abstract. But for me, visually, to know that this particular piece is the first transaction, that's because it's simplified. That's why these forms are more simplified. That to me is just awesome, and it just gives it intrinsic meaning, even though it's generative and on the surface it looks abstract. So to me personally, but like just in the background, that's just so. I mean, that's just great. You just really knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. That's the generative art project.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for those words. The generative algorithm was. I've done generative art for a while, but it was quite a Herculean process to get it to work with transaction data. Just you got to look at the transaction. You're like, well, does this represent a transaction that is doing blah blah blah, right, or doing that? And obviously, and I think you presented an interesting point about the challenge of abstract art. And you got to tune these parameters, right? Like, if I change this number, does it make it feel more like a simple transfer of ETH or less, right? Like, that was a very interesting journey in itself. And then
getting the right mix between variability and just randomness.
Yeah. That's one of the key things, right? Is you need to have enough trends that it's you could look at one and generally define which category, but it can't be too repetitive, right? And so that is like a very obvious design parameter that, as an artist, I hope to creatively explore more and with subsequent seasons.
Oh yeah, you've got it right there. The seasons is just the perfect tie-in to introduce variability while also introducing rarity. You just that's great.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot more we need to explore, right?
Definitely.
And I think that's where I'm very personally excited about the project, and I urge anybody who wants to be part of it, just hop on our communities there, because I really think this project is less about myself, more about how people think about these things and about these moments of history. And in many ways, I'm hoping to create different ways for you guys to react to it.
I think whether intentionally or unintentionally, you're doing essentially what Charged Particles is attempting to do, and you are creating a protocol level, almost a visual protocol level that people will use and build projects on top of in the years to come. And I think,
yeah, and I mean, if people do actually want to do that right now, feel free to chat with me, and where we do have a very informal, I'm not going to give it a specific label, but informal way to support other artists to do that, because I'm very interested in seeing those forums, and I think it's great for the community as well. The mural has been a very community-led effort. People really wanted to see it. We're like, okay, cool, let's support it, and then we commissioned this artist, and that came to form. And any other people want to see other things, happy to help, happy to support. As a studio, we're working on a coffee book. We want to get all the coolest transactions that most of them are actually on in Decentraland, you see right now, and put those all into like an Ethereum history coffee book with NFTs inside it. And that's been something that we really want to do for a while and hope to do it soon.
That's cool. I would definitely get one of those coffee books.
I'll definitely send one your way when we do it.
That would make like just a perfect Christmas present or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That would definitely be like a perfect Christmas present. Or birthday present or something like that. Well, hey, Easy, you want to jump on at all? You got any questions?
I'm literally on the airplane, which just got canceled after sitting here for a couple hours. We have to keep playing, so not the best time for me to jump on. But I did want to say hi, and I love POB. I had a little hard time the first time I logged on connecting my wallet to see mine. But then like the next time I tried, it worked, and I got to look at, my first one, my biggest deed, my first NFT, my first like Uniswap, and just love it. It's really, really awesome. And it's cool to hear more about it and know that there's kind of more going on, and love to be part of that community as you grow it.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for those words, and yeah, like let me know if there's any more issues for you.
Definitely will do.
Yep.
Now, Dave, do you have any intentions of going past just transaction hashes?
Yeah. We have. I mean, let me take a step back and saying this. As a studio, we're very interested in just how do we further the envelope with NFTs or just tokens in general. I aptly like to call BBStudios a token experience studio. I didn't really want to quantify ourselves to NFTs specifically. But yeah, like it's been on my mind for a while. Is like there has been a lot of avatar NFTs, and I was like, okay, they all exist, and I don't know which ones will, become, that will, I guess, become long term. There's right now it's like the apes, the bored apes, and then there was whatever, there was the Meebips. There's so many derivatives of CryptoPunks, but we were really personally, we were like, well. I was kind of gave us the mental experiment. Like, what if Proof of Beauty did it? How would BBStudios do it? And one of the interesting quotes ideas is, well, what if we created we personify addresses into effectively avatars, right? So just like how we tied with Proof of Beauty's hash. A visual piece of artwork to a transaction hash. It's like, what if we tied an NFT to a specific address, right? So you can tie this one to the Uniswap V3 contract. You could tie this one to the Artblocks deployer, whatever contract, right? And you can have, and we're like, this is actually an interesting way to do avatars, right? Is how do we personify a contract, a smart contract, right? And that's been something. Like if we were to ever do avatars, which is very unlikely, this was the way we would do it. But yeah, we are interested in how do we expand upon some of these ideas we have in our heads, and we have a lot of other crazier, out of the world ideas that they all trickle down to the core goal is how do we kind of push the envelope with NFTs, right? Is how do we make our relationship with these tokens a little bit more interesting or a little bit more thought-provoking, and that's our end goal. And we have some things, and stay tuned because some things may come out sooner, hopefully, assuming I don't procrastinate. But yeah, like there's a lot of interesting things we're building. I think on a context of just history, we're really interested in how do we bring this out to potentially addresses, as addresses are a lot more of a
That's
noun.
what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, because those are like, I guess, grammatically a lot more like they are nouns, right? Like
Mhm.
whereas a transaction is more of a verb or an action.
Mhm.
So with nouns, I think there's a lot more creative play there too. So potentially, nothing on the roadmap, but something we're thinking about.
I like how you are equating types of transactions and smart contracts to actual like language syntax. I think that's definitely like, yeah, you got a lot of legs, you got a lot of runway in front of you. Definitely, I'm gonna have to pick up one of my own now that I understand the project, because I definitely think this is going places for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have a very exciting things packed for the summer that we hope to get outdoor and get it out to the community. Hope to, continue to grow it. Find ways to enrich the collectors that we have already and future collectors. In many ways, we're very much so in the game of, taking this from just, okay, here we dropped X amount of supply to how do we build something that's very long term and very vibrant. And that has its own challenges, obviously. But we're, as the artist, as the studio,
I think
we're here right along.
Yeah, I think you already have a great head start with all the mechanics you're building in. I think, like I said, my only critique, just get that website a little bit more obvious, and I think you're gonna start seeing some. I mean, you've already seen a lot of adoption, so that's probably why you didn't bother that much with it to begin with. So, but
yeah.
You really get that going, and you're gonna really hit your stride, especially once people catch on OpenSea. Man, I just see you guys up at the top 10 eventually on OpenSea.
Yeah, I think on our peak we hit top 12, but that was obviously during a very bullish moment.
Right, back in February, late February, early March. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a lot of work to get back up there, but
No, I think you guys rode the wave exactly. I held back Harmony and Discord's collections because I wanted better minting options. I regret doing that now because I should have taken advantage of just the market at the time, the market conditions. And that's great. You got in there and did that. So now you got funding under yourself. You got enough runway to really do the things you want now. So yeah, you guys nailed it on all cylinders.
Yeah. Very fortunate for all those things, just at a very pragmatic standard. It's nice to be able to focus on this and just create both at an artistic level, at a product level, without too many outside voices beyond just what the community wants. And I think that's, allows us to stay nimble, stay fast. And yeah, very excited for that.
As with tradition of the show, first person to toss out their Tez address gets one free edition of the diorama. First person to toss out their Tezos address. Can't be Marty McFly. He won last time. First person. Looking for that Tezos address. We're giving away one. So I give you a copy of the scene. I keep one. Bake.eth keeps one. Sandy Meow got hers for herself this time. We give one to Token Smart for posterity. And then we give out one during the show. And then we sell the other 5. I think that if my ad, me, Bake.eth, Artist, Token Smart. Yeah. And we sell the other 5. And that's going to be the format for all of these shows from here on out. So Sandy just got me her address, and I will send one right now. Let me find it. Send, and I don't know if you're familiar with Tezos protocol, their NFT protocol.
Personally,
F2A.
I don't know too much about Tezos beyond just things on the outside of I have invested before.
That's why I asked about if you had plans on going to the chain, because what Tezos did was they combined 1155 and 721 protocols into one protocol.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so you can, and I just gave away Sandy's, I just sent Sandy's edition to her, but you can tell the difference specifically between Sandy's edition and my edition.
Oh, wow.
You can tell which order it's been. So, so I took the first one, or maybe I didn't. I can't remember. I may have sent Baked.eth the first one. But yeah, you can tell the difference on multiple editions specifically. So that's pretty cool. But so yeah. So definitely, did you get me your address already?
I think I tossed it over.
Okay, I'll go back and check. I'll make sure I sent that to you. Then I'll get in DMs and decide what the price is at. And right now we're splitting it 25%, 75%, 75% for the artist. I hope to get a show sponsor in the future and then bring that all the way up to 100% for the artist. But yeah, I am looking very much forward. I'm definitely going to get one for myself. That's 100%. So you can look forward to at least one more sale. But I think you'll be looking forward. I think you guys really have something, and hats off to you on producing, in my personal opinion, one of the most compelling generative art projects out there that I've seen so far.
Thank you. Yeah. And excited to, if you guys have any questions, DM me. You can hop on our website. All of our links, Twitter, Discords are all on there.
Yep.
Hop on those and I'll be there.
Oh, this has just been an awesome show today. I really appreciate the Token Smart people steered me towards you, so that was awesome. They have great taste, obviously. So that is, I'm really grateful for that because I will be getting, like I said, my piece of history soon.
Cool. Likewise, yeah, it's been a joy to hop on here. And
we had quite a bit of people in today, so I'm sure you'll be seeing some more interest within the Token Smart community specifically.
Cool.
And if Easy wasn't on the plane or trying to get off the plane, he would have been here talking up and probably telling you to come on Cypher afterwards. But too bad he had plane issues. But anyhow, thanks again for coming on. And it's a great show. And I am going to turn it back over to Freddie Mercury or Sandy.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go ahead and put some Freddie Mercury. You guys, I had my mic on mute this whole time, but yes, thank you so much, Ben from BBStudios, and thank you so much, Dave from Proof of Beauty. Yes, we'll be starting soon, streaming live the Clubhouse event. So let's all get to the Clubhouse channel. Yes, let's go. Follow it, Carolina Da. And I'll meet you guys there soon.